In 2020, I reopened my practice. So it's a very weird time, but it was a slow grow, and I was struggling with for my patients, like, right, like, so I'm not paying attention to them as much as I should because I'm worried about the insurance companies like never paying. Cash was definitely a dip. So it wasn't like I wasn't growing; it was just a very slow grow. I was just burnt out from just doing the same thing. Like, because I'm a sole practitioner, I'm all alone. I literally do everything. It's very difficult. I think this is a big point to why I actually went with you guys, because you're like, you're not going to change the way you practice. You're just going to change the amount of people, and it's not the way it is.
Looking at your averages for earlier this year compared to since we started. So January through April, an average of $9,900 a month, a little under that, a little under 9,900 a month that you're bringing in. May, we hit a little over 20K. $20,500,
which was not easy at first, but getting much better at closing them. So I started my practice in 2020. I mean, I started it before that, but there was a long story before that. But in 2020, I reopened my practice. So put it that way. And obviously, we all remember 2020. It was awesome. Let's never go back. And I think it was just a very weird time, but it was a slow grow. And I've always been the kind of practitioner, just referral only. I've never actually done any advertising. And I was taking insurance at the time. So it was a really easy sell for like everybody was like, oh yeah, she takes insurance. It's fine. Great. And as we all know, insurance is a nightmare. It was starting to become like the only thing I was thinking about. I was struggling with not worrying about insurance and making sure I was getting paid for the services, but like it was also struggling for my patients, like, right, like, so I'm not paying attention to them as much as I should because I'm worried about the insurance companies like never paying, which is, it's not all about money, but it is like I'd like to keep the doors open. So I moved cash, and cash is a harder sell for patients that I already have established. Like, obviously, I call them my diehards; they'll never leave me. That it's even harder for them to like refer to me because they're like, oh, well, she's cash only. And the patients, the friends or family are like, yeah, I'm not going. Cash was definitely a dip. So I was doing like, it was pretty easy to internal referral with insurance, but then there was a pretty good dip in my patient base when I went into cash. Obviously, I knew that was going to happen. Not a big deal. And like, I'd still get referrals. It was just a very slow plateau of my patients, and like it would just slowly build onto that. So it wasn't like I wasn't growing, it was just a very slow grow, which is fine. But I eventually was just like, "Ugh, I really have to do some advertising." And of course, like the only advertising I've ever done, I got totally burned on. So I was just like, okay, well, I really don't want to do this because I already had a bad taste in my mouth. And I also have always been a chiropractor who's had mentors that are like wicked old school. And you kind of have like that old school thought process of, oh, well, if they're the loudest one out there advertising, they're the worst ones out there. And I'm like, I hate to say that, but and like there is a little bit of truth to that, but also you do have to advertise every once in a while. Like, it's important. So I think advertising had a bad thought process to me. I had a bad vibe with it, and then I think this has made it really easy because I know that social media is a totally different ballgame than paper or fly. It's a different world we live in now, right? It's not like the first starts of chiropractic care. Like, it's totally different. Also, it was hard to find something that didn't seem like advertising wise. I have no idea how to advertise. I don't know how to make little things on Instagram. I mean, as you all know, I am the worst tech person in the world. It's really bad, but like the company, your company has made it super easy.
What were the struggles that you had right before we started, and like you and your practice and the growth that you felt? I know you felt burnt out. Could you share a little bit on how you really felt coming into this, like maybe the couple months leading up to this? Because I know we had some more difficult conversations right at the beginning.
Yeah. So I think with everything, honestly, this is my 10th year of being a chiropractor. I think it's an easy job when you are actually doing the job, but everything that you have to do to promote yourself is not an easy job. And we weren't ever taught that. We weren't ever taught any of that kind of thing. And I think that's the biggest thing. I feel like I was burnt out. Like, I didn't even know where I needed to start with advertising, right? Because again, it was hard. I'm not quite sure how. Like, I think we just like it was like a phone call or something about like Palmer, and then like I was like, oh, and then it was really interesting because it was almost like you guys were just there, and I was like, oh, that was weird. I need to manifest more things like that. But it was good. It was like exactly what I wanted because it was ROI based, right? It was based on your return on investment, which I think is huge, especially because it gives both parties accountability. And before I started, I had a lot of goals that I think that I would have reached. It was just going to take so much more longer time. I was just burnt out from just doing the same thing. And I think a lot of times we get burnt as chiropractors, we get burnt out just by the type of work it is, right? Like it's very methodical. It's very like we have to deal with a lot of personalities. Um,
Yeah.
I'm trying to be nice, but we all know what I mean. Like it's just a lot of bandwidth. So if taking like the constant inflow of patients, it's been interesting because it actually pushes you out of your comfort zone. And I think that's what we talked about in the beginning. Like I was like, I don't care. I'm gonna be super uncomfortable for a little bit of time. And then it'll just like everything you get more comfortable with it
Yeah.
uncomfortable.
So what made that shift in you to go from like just super nervous about, because I remember you were nervous when we first started, you're like, hey, I'm like really uncertain. And you made the choice, but what inspired you to make that decision to start? Because there was like something that flipped in you when you did.
I think I needed honestly, like we talked about before, part of the whole like, even talking to patients lately, I've noticed when you tell them that there's somebody in their corner or if you have accountability, I think that was a big thing for me, just having somebody and you're like, it's just a coaching session. I feel like because I'm a sole practitioner, I'm all alone. I literally do everything. It's very difficult. That's a big part of it. So I think I was also looking for advertising, but I was also looking for a coach just to be like, listen, honestly, just as someone having been like, yeah, you got this, we're going to be okay. And I think that was a huge portion of it. And I think because I experienced that, it's easy for me to tell my patients when I'm like doing a program with them, like it's easy for me to be like, listen, I got you. And sometimes just having someone say that to you is huge. Like it definitely changes it. But I think the way that you guys set up your meetings in the beginning, right? Like it was very helpful because it was like a slow process that you're like, obviously it like you put the time in, you do care. And a lot of times that's doesn't feel the way it is. Like most of the time we're like, all right, sign on the dotted line and that's it. And you're like, great, well, I just sold my soul. Um, no, but it was very much like accountability. I think everybody on your team though too is like, oh man, like we gotta get this done or like that, you know what I mean? So like if for example our scheduling was like all over the place, then we'll bring that up. But like it wasn't that big of a problem, right? Like we have as docs, we have fires to put out all the time. So it was like, yeah, the schedule got messed up, but working through that, it gets rectified. It's not like we're how many weeks in and it's still a problem, right? Like it's not a
Yeah.
problem. So
Yeah.
like things just get rectified, right? So it was, I think the accountability part, or basically knowing that I wasn't completely alone anymore, was a huge portion of it. That kind of sounds sad, but it is so true, especially for the sole practitioners out there. It's hard. It's hard to just be alone all the time and like be like, okay, this is what we're gonna do for the rest of your life. But I think soon I'll be able to hire some more people and that'll be good. Yeah.
We're pumped about that. Were you skeptical at first, like coming in? Was there any skepticism you had about starting, about deciding to make the move?
Yeah,
What
absolutely.
were you skeptical about?
I was like, is this a
Why
good
did you give it a
idea? Like,
shot?
why am I doing this? Do I really want to? Also, you're always concerned about return on investment, right? And yes, you can put a bunch of money into things and they can have zero return on investment, right? So when I started and we set up things, it was just going a little bit slower in the beginning because you have to go a little slower just so you can get people in. It wasn't even that slow. It was like a week or two. It was just whatever. Um, but after like people come in and you start to realize like, listen, both of us are going to win if I do the work, right? Like you guys are doing the work, so I need to match that. And that's how you can get the return on investment. So like you guys don't really get the amount of money you want unless we get the amount of money that we make. So it's
Yeah.
I think it's a win-win. It's not like you're just pouring out money and then like nothing's coming in. In the beginning it was a little hard because that was more me because selling, as everybody knows, is not as chiros. I think we are by nature givers, right? So we just are like, I honestly would be like, oh, if we could just, everybody gets adjusted for free, it'd be great. But that's not real life. So we have a hard time selling. But then I realized, like, as like through like our conversations and stuff, it's like, well, what are you selling? I think at one point I was like, if I could like have the perfect practice, I would have them do this and this. And you're like, okay, then do it. I was just like, oh yeah, it is my practice. But it was just interesting because like you are selling them something that you already sell to people. You're just making it easier for yourself to like have it all at once and like you can just focus on them. And I think we always get stuck on like having them come in and like, oh, I don't want it to be too much money. But if it's already done, if the payment's out of the way, it's like a set it and forget it kind of thing with the people. And they're happy because they don't have to worry about it anymore, like payment wise or program wise or literally anything. And I think that's just like you start to find your people anyway, like you always do, depending on how much of a practice you've been, that's going to happen. But yeah, I think I was never a program person. And I feel like it has made my life easier in a lot of ways. But I still have my other patient base that like I'm slowly gonna add on to that, but that's a whole other
Yeah.
that's down the road.
The
But
next step.
yeah,
Awesome.
that's the next stop on the train.
We kind of went through the struggles. We kind of went through like your expectations, like the fear. Like now looking back, like how'd you feel like after week 1, week 2, week 3? Like what was the progression and like the experience that you felt as we walked alongside you in this?
So I feel like I have gotten much more comfortable with like, and I keep bringing up the selling thing because that is the most uncomfortable. I could literally talk to anybody. Like that's not my problem. I'm not shy. I could talk to a stump for a while if you really wanted to. It's just like the selling thing. And I think having the confidence, honestly, in myself to be able to sell that part of my off like so part of my work to people. Um,
Hmm.
and I think it was funny because, like we actually went up in a price thing and I was like super uncomfortable with it, but I'm like, they're going to buy it or they're not going to buy it. It is not the biggest, like, it's not a big deal because they're going to get it or they're not going to get it. And you can actually set that up for them and explain the reasons why you're doing it that way. Like, I was not a care plan person, but I feel like it's made it a little bit easier. Like, I would just let people work on their wellness as they go.
You're rocking
Um,
it now.
yeah,
You're rocking it now. It's
it's
awesome to see the growth that you've had.
yeah, I honestly think that the biggest part about chiropractors is we have a hard time selling things. I know that's the biggest obstacle for me, at least. I don't know. Maybe some people
Yeah.
are nervous about talking to new
People
patients all
look
the
at it as
time,
being
but
bad.
yeah. And I think that was like the stigma I had that it was bad and that I was kind of being shisty, right? Like I was like, oh, I'm going to try to get one over on them. But really, I'm like, who am I getting one over? They're going to feel better after this. Like, I'm going to be working and they're going to be getting better. I think part of it was like, you already help people. You know what I mean? Like, chiros already help
Yeah.
people. I just think they have to be more, like more
Convicted.
confident. I mean, it's
Yeah.
not an easy. You have like the whole medical community telling you you're the redhead stepchild, right? Like you have people being like, oh, they're just quacks. Like, so it's kind of like we already go into this like in the history of chiropractic, right? Like there's people going to jail for it. So we always have like this back burner feeling of like we're not good enough, but like we all know that it helps people. We all know that there's like crazy stuff that happens in our practices all the time. If you can get more people in and share that with them, I think it's huge. I think it's big. And I think I started looking at new patients a little differently. There's definitely been a shift. Before I was like, oh, yeah, like a new patient, you kind of have to do all the paperwork and all that stuff. You still do, to be honest, but it's okay because the more you see, I think you'll realize you kind of find the people that are going to be more drawn to you anyway. So you have this basically a floodgate of new patients. The people who are going to want to see you and want to stay, they stay. I just had a patient just yesterday. She's just like, I don't know why. I just love coming here. And I was like, okay, cool. I was like, I need some of your positive energy today. She's like, my last patient of the day. She's like, no, it's great. I love it. I'm so excited about this today. I was like, okay. I was like, oh, I love you. You're so fun. But
That's awesome.
you'll find your people,
Yeah.
finding the people that are going to be good for you and you good for them. Because that always happens
Yeah.
in the long run.
I love that. So I wanted to run through some numbers real quick. So looking at your averages for earlier this year compared to since we started. So January through April, right? I went and just averaged all the numbers.
Yes, I have.
It's an average of $9,900 a month, a little under that, a little under
Yeah.
9,900 a month that you're bringing in. May, we hit 20, a little over 20K,
Mhm.
$20,500. So with that, like, were you natural at sales? Cause I want to like address this for people that like
No.
people aren't going to know, like, how was sale? What did you look at sales as being? And like, you
So
were not,
uncomfortable.
yeah. Can you share your experience? Like starting with like, were you natural at it or not? And
No,
then,
no, I'm awful at
okay.
sales. Um, yeah, no, I'm terrible at sales. But now I'm kind of like, I was awful at sales and I kind of had to change my way of thinking of just being like, there's a couple things, like, right? Like, you're going to be uncomfortable, which we're not. We're like, as chiropractors, we're really not uncomfortable with being uncomfortable. We have people come in and they're like a hot mess, and most people would just like run to the hills, be like, I'm not touching that person, right? So I kind of got that mindset. When you get out of school, you're always a little nervous with those first patients and like new, like hard, complex cases. And then they just kind of become like run of the mill cases. You don't get as like anxious about these people that come in and they have all these different problems. You're just like, yeah, we're just going to adjust you. Things are going to get better. And if they're not, then we'll further investigate, right? But you just get used to just manning questions that are really difficult as you get more into practice. You get used to all the uncomfortableness. So I just kind of applied that mindset to sales, which was not easy at first. But I think just being able to like man the questions that people give me, and I'm all about like, as you know, scripts. um I like having scripts and like kind of building off of those, right? So like
Mhm.
the company like Parajump does a great job of like kind of giving you a baseline, and then you can add into that, or you can like take away from that, mostly adding in or like kind of modifying it to sound more like you. But yeah, I think that helped a ton. I think that I just, when I got nervous about something or someone was like, oh, well, I can't, I'm like, all right, I'm going to need a new script for this. Like, I need to like write this out because, you have like the people that are, I mean, we talked about it, right? I was like, oh, people are kept on being like, oh, I got to talk to my husband about it. And I'm like, okay, well, talk to them. And then, but having something to say to that. And I'm still like, I still have a little bit of a hard time, but I'm getting much better at closing them. And it's not like a hard close. It's not like these car salesmen. You're just giving them like what they already want. It's just that they need to find a way to finance it most of the time. And sometimes you'll just like I've never had someone be like, nah, sounds terrible. I don't want anything to do with this. That'd be kind of interesting if they did say that. But like, yeah, no, I think it's just getting comfortable with the questions that people throw at you and kind of applying what we already know and what we already do as chiropractors, because we already man those hard questions, right? Like we can talk about someone's arthritis and scoliosis and all the things and the itises and stuff, but we can't man a question like, oh, well, I don't know if I can financially afford this. And then you just shut down and nothing comes after that. Yeah, that's not good. So learning how to man those questions, I think was the biggest thing. And you'll kind of get used to that. And like if things go awry, then you just learn how to fix it the next time. So it's just like taking that whole premise of like you already are used to uncomfortable situations and applying it to sales and knowing that you're actually selling a product that's going to help people. So there's that.
What do you feel like you did differently that has allowed you to become really solid at sales? Like you can always get better, but you have become very solid at what you do and like portraying that, conveying that, and speaking to people about it. What do you think you did differently that has allowed you to do that versus what how other people might take any kind of sales training?
I think I specifically made a point to have it in like intake, adjustment, sales portion. I think a lot of times we don't take that time, or not time so much as like a segment of your exam to just sales. Like you're not going to be adjusting someone and then trying to sell them a package at the same time. That's not really good. But excuse me, making sure you have that time like carved out, even if it's like, it only takes like 5 minutes or so, but having the time like scheduled out in this thing, because I would just be like at the end of the adjustment just be like, okay, if we're sort of we'll figure this out and like I'll see you next week, blah blah blah. But having that like, and honestly I think a script is the biggest part that helps
Mhm.
me, because I'm all about like having something prepared and having
Yeah.
something said like I can say
What
to
about
someone.
the one-on-one training? Because I know we spent a few weeks in a row. We had like I think it was 2 or 3 weeks in a row. We just sat down for an hour and we're like, let's go through line by line, make sure you feel
Mhm.
with every piece. Can you share a little bit about that experience?
I think again like the script that you gave me was really impactful for people, and it was like it's written because you guys focus in sales, right? Like this, you sell sales. That's kind of weird, but you do. But so I think when we had our trainings, I'd be like, I have no idea what does this even mean? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm always I'm a question asker, So I was like, I don't know what this means. Was there an easier way to put this? Like, just in the, what do you call that? The script itself. And we went over that really like pretty in depth. And you're like, well, you could probably say this, this, and this. Like, it's just a recap. And I'm like, oh, so when I hear it in a different way and it might not be my wording, but you explaining it to me was much easier for me to understand. We just went through and kind of made it my own. And I think that's when it clicked in my head, or just knowing the
Mhm.
baseline of it was way easier to understand. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I think the biggest thing that I've noticed, and I'll just share a little bit here, is you've been super intentional about it. You've not been shying away from like, ah, yeah, I'll get to that when I get to. You've been like, no, I need help with this thing. Can we have a time? Can we make it work? Can I get extra time with you so that we can actually walk through this and I can get better? When you start off chiropractic school, you're not like, oh, I'm not going to put in the time and effort. I got this figured out. Like, you're like, no, I'm going to study it. I'm going to ask questions. I'm going to make sure I understand it truly so that I can take this on. And I think chiros forget that there's two aspects of things. You have your business and then you have the chiro. And sales
Hmm.
is a piece of that business. And if we don't do really well there, we can't have the impact we want to make.
Yeah.
And you've taken a hold of that and been like, no, I'm going to get really good at the sales portion so that I can make this impact, so that I can make this life changing or practice changing revenue that I want to
Hmm.
make and hit these goals that I want to hit. So
Yeah.
I want to give you a lot of like props for that, because not everyone takes a hold of that. Not everyone is like, okay, I acknowledge that I'm not great at this thing and I need to get better. Let me take a step there.
Yeah.
People get lost on not acknowledging that or not taking that step.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think it would be easy for other chiropractors to do, to be
Mm,
honest. Like as long as they took what they're already done in chiropractic school, like you made it all the way through chiropractic school. Like it wasn't an easy feat. As much as people would like to downplay it, it wasn't easy. And obviously we're goal driven people, probably a little OCD, so that's okay. It's actually a good thing in this case, but just really goal driven. And I think that I feel like if you have a goal in your brain and you want to achieve it, I do think you can probably, like, I needed to be better at sales. Like, that was the way that I'm going to get to the next level in my practice. I'm still working on it, right? Like, I'm still trying to get to the next level in my practice, but it's either like I've known it for a while. Like, if there's going to be a problem to solve, it's going to be me solving the problem. And normally I usually am the problem. So that would be the problem there. Uh, but solving that problem and knowing if I can fix the sales portion of it, I could pretty much, I figured out every other aspect of it. Like, why not be able to figure out the sales, right? Like, it's just another piece of the chiropractic puzzle, right? Like, if you're comfortable with sales, you're not going to get to a certain point, right? Like, you're just going to be like, and it's very easy for us, I think so, as like a sole practitioner, have people kind of like manipulate their way into like us as givers being like, oh well, like I just can't do that. And I'm like, and they're like, oh okay. And then you end up having that whole patient base be like that. And that's just not good. You need to be able to not have that patient base where you run the practice rather than the practice, okay, some people call it practice members, patients run the practice. I think that's important. I think it's like getting past that is huge.
yeah.
Um, but sales, I think, is just another obstacle to overcome. And yeah, maybe you might not be good at it. I never was, but I feel like I just got used to it because I think going in, that was my major thing. I had a goal in mind that I wanted to grow my practice. I'm still growing my practice, but I want like another doctor. I want some front desk staff, right? But I have this vision of my practice and what it could be. I just need to get there and I need to make sure that I know how to do every single job that I want other people around me to be able to do. Because I'm not going to have a great practice if I can't do it. Right. Like I'm not going
Yeah.
to be able to teach them either. So if I can't sell, I can't rely on someone to sell my practice for me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I
Yeah.
need to be able to do it well. I think it's
Yeah.
just being
Yeah.
uncomfortable or comfortable with the uncomfortable. I think that's what we said in the beginning. I was
Yeah.
like, you're really pushing me out of my comfort zone, but I'll do it. If you say it'll
I
work,
love I
okay.
love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've taken it and like
Yeah.
you've taken a hold of it and done it. And like you've been the one doing the stuff. Like you've made it happen. Things don't work without you implementing them. And I think that's the biggest thing. You
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah. Yeah. You have to, I mean, don't get me wrong. It's not like you're going to have this company come in and they're going to do all this thing for you if you can't do the work. But I think that's part of it too. Like you realize, like you have these people walking through the door and you're like, okay, well, they're here for a reason. Just give them what they want. And if they don't want what you have to sell, then they're not going to take it. Like it's fine. Like I think that was a big thing for me in the beginning is getting used to people being like, yeah, I can't. And I'm like, okay. So it kind of is a little hard to take that rejection, but then you're like, it doesn't happen often, but like you kind of learn that's part of it, right? Like, cause you're seeing way more people than most, like the
You
average,
were
like
at how
your
many? You were
average.
at 3 patients a month before we
Yeah.
started. And
Yeah.
then we started and I think last month we had
Three
roughly
patients next Monday. So that's just one
okay,
day.
3 patients in a day. There we go. We had like
So
2 to 3 people coming in every day.
yeah.
And if you can do it and make this stuff happen, do you feel like anyone can do it?
Yeah. But I feel like that all the time. Like I feel like if I can go to chiropractic school, anybody can go to chiropractic school. But it's true. They've already gone to chiropractic school. You've done so much so far in your life, like most of the practitioners you work with, right? That why can't you do this? That's the real question, right? Like that's the question I ask myself. I'm like, obviously you can do this. It's uncomfortable, but you're gonna do it. Just get it done, learn how to do it, get good at it. That's another thing in your practice that's like a solid thing that you already have, right? So another thing that I think is important to say is like a lot of companies that do practice management. I don't know if it's like practice management that you'd call it, actually like advertisement and
No,
like a little bit of coaching,
like
right?
growth. Yeah, I'd
Growth.
say we guarantee growth. So that's essentially
So the guaranteed growth thing, right? Like I feel like a lot of times people look at those companies and all they're going to expect their practice to turn into is like a conveyor belt kind of practice.
mm,
Worked in those kind of practices and I told myself that I'm never going to be that person, right? I'm not that person. I take time with my patients. And I think this is a big point to why I actually went with you guys, because you're like, you're not going to change the way you practice. You're just going to change the amount of people. I have changed a little bit about the way I practice, but that's because that's the sales part of it. But like the actual adjustments and the taking care of people hasn't changed. And I think that was another, I think to your point before of like, why was that a big selling point? I think that was a big selling point because I think a lot of times practice, like people who come in for sales, they're like, oh, we're just going to get them in, you adjust them. And it's not the way it is. Like, I think that was a big thing that you guys had said
Yeah.
at the beginning was a big selling point. Knowing I needed to grow, but also having someone who's like willing to be like, no, no, you need to cut
Yeah.
your time in half. You need to do this. You need to do that. That are almost like a, I don't know how to say this. Like it's like a moral thing. You know what I mean? Like a,
Yeah.
I
It's
don't,
not
that's not the
ethical.
word. Yeah, ethical.
Not your, yeah.
That's not how I ethically feel like I need to treat patients. So
Yeah.
there wasn't any changing of that, like the soul of my like my practice,
Yeah.
right? That wasn't changing. Just the amount of people I could take care of was changing, which was good. And I think that's a big selling point for a lot of practitioners like me, because I think it's like the first one that I've actually ever come across. I didn't want to change like everything about the practice or the way that we work. Do you know what I mean by that? Does that make sense? I
Yeah.
think that's a huge
Yeah.
selling point that I don't know if you guys even know
I
if that's a
appreciate
thing.
I appreciate you sharing that, seriously. And like,
Yeah.
I have one last question, and then I'll let you get out of here. I appreciate the heck out of you for like sitting with me for this time
It's
and
all
like
good.
walking. You are a holistic style practice, and
Mhm.
still in 8 weeks, you were able to add an extra $10,000 of revenue
Mm. Yeah.
in a single month.
Yeah.
And so, what does that look like? Because a lot of people will hear this and think that it is a conveyor belt that we're like, hey, no, we have to change everything, make things
Nope.
super fast. Like, what is your experience been? And like, can you just share like a quick piece on the fact that you are a holistic wellness style practice? A little bit about how
Yeah.
long you spend with patients and how you still hit the extra 10K a month.
So I'm gonna get yelled at for how much I spend with patients because it's quite a bit of time. So realistically, my patient is on the table for about 15, maybe 20 minutes. They need it. But most of the time it's like 15 minutes, which is a good amount of time. Most chiros are like 10 minutes, less than 10 minutes, and you're fine, or less than 5 minutes. I don't know. I worked for a company that said like 1 minute, and I was like, that's insane. I'm not doing that. Ethically, I can't. But I haven't really changed the way I physically practice. Like I haven't changed any ways how I actually help people and do the treatments. I'm adding more to their treatment because now I don't have to, because again, like I said, if you have staff and another doctor on hand, you'll be walking in the breeze. It's fine. I do everything myself. So they usually have to stop and do the paperwork. And like, then I have to like ring them up. But because of the package thing, like in all pay at once, that part's already behind me. So that's the only thing that I'm actually cutting down on time. And it's not because I'm cutting down on their treatment time, it's cutting down on just like process time. But that's the only thing that's changed for time wise. But everything else, yeah, everything else is the same. There's nothing that and I see it on my other patients too. So, but they've definitely, it would be nicer to have all the patients, like the new patients come in and just have the other process, which again, we can work, we've been talking about working on. There's definitely the way we set it up is more, I'm still doing all the work that I need to do for them. It's just, I have less, what do you call it? Like clerical things I have to get done.
Like
So
admin
that's,
work.
yeah, admin stuff,
Yeah.
admin stuff.
Let's go.
So I do need an
Let's
admin,
go.
um, but that's a different problem. Yeah, I think so. I think
Yeah.
honestly, it's nothing really has changed except for the amount of people I see.
Yeah.
Uh, like as a very large influx of people. I think leaning into the fact that you're not changing everything about their practice is huge. Honestly, I think that was one of the biggest, and I don't really think I thought about it in the beginning, but like when you're asking like why I changed my
Yeah.
mind about like advertising and stuff, I think one thing I was ready to do it. The other thing is having somebody in your corner. I think leaning into that was a huge thing. And
Yeah.
then like just for when you're talking to some, because I feel like sometimes it's, and not to be like a Debbie Downer, but I feel like we're like very alone as chiropractors. Like we don't really have a big community. Maybe some do, but
Yeah.
I don't have a big community. I mean, I have like one friend who's a chiropractor, but I feel like that's the difference, right? Like when you're doing it on your own, or like you're in the trenches and you're seeing a ton of people, like and you're working and you do it the way I do it, you're not going to be out and about like being, hey, that kind of thing. It's not the same kind of practice, right? Like we're talking about like the hole in the wall practice that like sees a bunch of people, does a really good job, but nobody knows about you. Kind of,
Yeah.
yeah. But I think you should lean into that because I think
Okay.
not changing my practice totally.
It's been amazing. changing the things that are needle movers, but not the things about how you care for people, I think is the biggest thing.
And I think the only things that have changed for me, this is a good point too, is that you guys have kind of given me, because I've gotten better at sales. And I'm like, well, if I can get better at that, I can get better at this. Like, you got this. It's fine.
Uh,
We're going to do good.
Thank you so much. I will talk
Okay.
to you later. Have a good one.
Bye.